Now we move on to example 2.6. So this is one I want to spend a little bit of time on because in the iterations based on this, we've got a flat 6 to a 5 to a 1. So if we think about the 5 chord, D, if we go up a half step, now we're to E flat or D sharp, depending on how you think about it, they're resolved by half step to the 5 and back to the 1. Let's play the example as the example sits. The thrill is gone, BB King. Then let's talk about variations for a moment.
Right.
A 1, 2, 3, 6 chord to the 5 and to the minor 1. Okay. Now for the harmonica player, the flat 6 is an issue because it brings a note that is not available to us till we get to 8 below half step bend. So what I need to do is find another note of the chord that works. In this case, we have a dominant form of the 6 chord. So we think of D, okay, up to E flat, G, B flat, D. So it makes sense that the G and the D unbent notes will be solid notes for us. So let's choose 2 draw, and then we'll go to 2 draw half step bend, be a little bit bold for our 5 chord. That's the third of the 5 chord, and then resolve to our 2 draw for the 1 chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's go for that E flat, G, B flat, D. I'm going to stay on the D, so that chord tone is relative. That D is the flat 7th of this flat 6 chord, which then becomes the root note of the 5 chord and then resolve down to 2 draw. So 4 draw, 4 draw, 2 draw, D, D, G. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, luckily, that's probably most likely what you're going to do anyway, is that 1 draw, 4 draw is where a lot of us harp players go for the 5 chord. And you're going to be hearing like, wow, that's a cool sounding chord. You'll hit that 1 draw, 4 draw, it'll match, and you might try some of the other notes that normally would work, and like, wait a minute, what's going on? Anyways, I talked enough. Can you enlighten us a little bit about the use of the flat 6 chord?
Well, you know, I'm just thinking about some of the variations. Like I was playing dominant chords, both for the 6, the flat 6 and the 5, but you know, they can be colored differently, which also might change choice of notes for you as a harmonica player. Like, and I've heard people do different versions, but I tend to like to make the flat 6 chord a major 7 instead of a dominant,
Okay.
which gives you that D in there.
So E flat, G, B flat. Oh, okay.
See, the D is the 5th of G, but it's also the major 7th of the flat major 7 chord.
So actually, I was playing that wrong before, wasn't I? I was playing D natural when I should have been playing D flat.
Oh, yes, exactly. You were putting it in, which is sometimes it kind of works, because I always used to hear that in recordings, and I go, wait a minute.
That's an appoggiatura then. I was playing a suspended tone.
Yeah, exactly. But if I make the chord a major 7, I'll play that note, play that D. See how beautiful? Now that sounds much better with the chord I'm playing. Now versus if I play. See, there's where your tension comes in.
Yeah.
So in blues harmonica, I think that works too.
Because in this case, I would be playing a suspension, right? I'm playing
Yeah,
D, which is a half step away from your next chord.
Yeah,
and
yes.
your chord change matches my.
Yeah, but you hear the difference.
We're in theory land now.
No, but you can hear the difference.
Boys and
It's actually makes it. It's a difference when you play. Go ahead, play your D again. Okay. Now play it again. Now see, we got a whole different vibe. When I make that chord a major 7th, it actually is a much prettier.
Yeah.
Which adds it adds to the song too. I mean, it's all questionable, right? Now the other thing too is when they go to the 5, we're playing a dominant there. I was doing a 9th, a D9, but here's some interesting things. If I put the raised 9 in there, make it a 7 plus 9, which there's a lot of people that do this both in blues and in jazz.
That'd be D sharp or E
That'd
flat.
be your F. Well, your F would work really great there too, because see, that's the raised 9.
Okay.
So you have other choices of notes now simply because I changed the color of the chord a little bit.
Okay, I got you.
These are just some possibilities.
Pause for a second. So if we're on the 5 chord, we're doing D, F sharp, A, C. E would be the 9th, raised by half step would be F, which is equivalent to our 5 draw. All right,
Right,
just
yeah.
making sure I'm on there. You
Right.
might need to get your
It's
pencil.
just another. It's just another way to. So those notes all kind of work in there. Even when you play the flatted 5th, which is the D flat. That's why the blues scale actually works so well. You know, thinking about it. Hear those notes? They all work really beautiful in that. Whether you play the whether I play them as straight dominants or whether I color them. Yeah, and this would be something that you would need to talk with your band guys if you're gonna do the straighter version of the Thrill Is Gone and you're gonna use dominant chords, you know, like E flat 9 to D9, then that's cool. But if you want to get a little richer sound, then you might want to do the E flat major 7, and then when you go to your 5D, maybe a D7 plus 9, which adds some color. This just kind of makes it a little richer sounding.
Sometimes, I think we might see this later in another example, but just in case we don't, it's sometimes they would go from a 5 chord for 1 bar, then the whole chord raises up by half step, which is the same flat 6 chord. So one way to think about it is it's the 5 chord, everything moved up a half step, back down. So it'd be something like da 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 da.
Yeah,
Similar to this.
sounds like Stormy Monday right there. A little breaking in.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got there's your 5,
Everything goes up a half step,
and then
back down, and then turn around.
and you go back to your 1.
Yeah. So, and there's sometimes where the root note just raises up by half step.
That's it.
So all the other notes stay the same.
Becomes altered. Like,
So a lot of times,
I think what you're thinking though,
yeah.
because it just dawned on me, the other thing that happens a lot, you're on the 5, right? You know what? There's your diminished thing. It actually, what happens, I usually think of these chords as like there's your D9, and then I'm essentially playing a B flat diminished there. Has the same effect, or a G diminished. Hear that? So you could think of it like that. I think that's where you're thinking of that half step up. I usually hear it from the 5th, moving up a half.
Gotcha.
Like in jump tunes, you might hear, or in blues tunes, you know, say we're on the 5. You hear that diminished thing. Diminished chord's really kind of cool because it's used as kind of a passing chord. But I look at this as kind of a 1. There's your 5, 1 diminished, back to 1, say 6 or 1 dominant.
In the end, as you can see, as we're getting into this territory, a lot of times.
There's another one. What? We're on the 2. So you got 2 chord. There's your diminished. Then the 5. Then back to 1. Yeah, there's lots of possibilities here, but I think it all stems from that idea of 5, sharp 5, or flat 6, back to 5.
That half step movement.
Yeah,
And we know that half step movement is, before you talked about the leading tone, it's very important for chord movement.
and for you, like I said, you could play any. You could pick any note. Say you play your A. Sounds good. Okay, play your C, which is the flat 7. Yeah, well, that's
Four drop
your
bend.
flat, and then back. See, you can pick any note out of the chord; it'll work. It really, you can't make a mistake if you're playing, you know, the root, the third, the fifth, the seven, the nine, even if you have the nine in there. So sounds great.
Yeah. I added in some color.
Yeah.
What I was going to say before is that this gets into the territory that if you're working with musicians, it'd be very common. John Garcia and I have played together in many iterations through the years and done albums together. The School of Blues All-Star Band being one of at least the most recent iteration. If there's a song that John does and he's got a chord in there, I'm not quite sure what that is. It'll be common for me to, in the middle of the set or maybe at the school later when we have a quick moment, I'll have him actually spell out the notes, I'll write it out. And remember, we've always used the C harmonica, second position key of G as our reference, so I'll have John, instead of actually say the individual pitches of that key, John will say that's a fifth, flat third, etc. So okay, fifth, that would be D, flat third would be B flat, and I'll write out those notes, and then I'll work on, actually write out those whole numbers, and then I might even put it in a sticky and it stays in my harp case. When that song comes up, I'll be playing and I'll be peeking over, okay, 4-draw bend or 3-draw whole step bend, and making sure I'm hitting those right notes. So obviously this requires some sit down, work it out, find your best notes, and of course that's what we're doing in this lesson.